Hello and welcome to our presentation. My name is Bill Nocerino, and I'm the manager over the lumber division at Mill2Market. Today I'm going to be talking about the Mill2Market product suite, which includes our weekly price report, quarterly benchmarks, and custom analytics. Let's get started. Mill2Market is a cutting-edge price report, something that's never been done before. Instead of collecting survey information by polling the marketplace, we actually collect transaction data from our subscribers and use that information to get a weighted average volume price. We are taking information from actual purchase orders and invoices, as well as sales information, and we are taking that and weighting it out based on volume to give you an accurate price for every individual price that we report. This helps to eliminate artificial price volatility, and it gives you a clear picture of what's happening in the marketplace as opposed to somebody's opinion. It is very important to mention that we adhere to federal antitrust guidelines to make sure that one participant does not drive the market. And also, this information is only distributed to members that contribute transaction data. In other words, you cannot benefit from this information unless you are participating by submitting weekly information to us. With Mill2Market, buyers and sellers can do a lot of things that is hard with the information that you get today. We feel it helps you make better informed decisions because it gives you a clear picture of the market, like I mentioned before, not someone's opinion. This information is based on actual information. Every single order that's happening is being reported. Folks have to give us their entire purchase order information or sales information for the week. It cannot be cherry picked. Every single information or every single transaction plays a part in determining the price. It helps you stay ahead of the market because it has the most up-to-date information available. We take information that is given to us from Thursday through Wednesday. It's submitted to us on Thursday morning the following week, and by Thursday night, that price is being reported. That average weighted volume price is being reported. So Friday morning when you come in, you have information that is less than a day old. I believe that is the most current information that you can get in the marketplace today. It gives you confidence to negotiate because you have factual and current information. It gives you everything you need to know when you go to make that sale or that purchase, because it not only tells you price, but it tells you volume indicators and the spread of what's happening between the highest and lowest price that we had reported to us. And one thing you can do after the fact is you can assess your performance against actual market price and not just opinion. So if you want to take that report and look back over the following week, you can get a good idea of where your numbers were in comparison to what the market's doing. And we have 3 pricing services that are sourced from the same transaction data, and we're going to get into this in a moment. We have weekly price reports, quarterly benchmarks, and custom analytics, and all of these fall under the Mill2Market name. Now this slide here gives you a quick snapshot of what the East and West regional views look like. This will be the first page you see on the weekly report, and it just gives you the price basically of every dimension that we're reporting on. You can see the prices are on 2x4s number 1s, 2x6, 2x8 number 1s, also 2x4 through 2x12 number 2, 2x4 through 2x8 number 3, and then of course a random length price on the number 4 grade. The reason you see some dashes in there is we have not, on some of these different prices, we have not met the antitrust guidelines, which means we have to have a minimum of 5 people giving us information for any particular price, and no one of the 5 can be greater than 30% of the volume to make sure that we meet the antitrust thresholds that are there. Obviously, the majority of mills are cutting number 1, number 2, number 3, and in those lengths. So we have dozens of subscribers that are giving us that information, but it's a little spotty on some of the other ones. So you'll see a dash in there, but you will see a random length price. So you'll get an idea of what the marketplace will be for a random tally of those numbers. Using the 2x6 number 1 for illustration purposes, we can see that the market weighted average price for the week was $288. There was an $18 decrease over the previous week. Volume increased over the previous week as well. However, there was 4 pluses indicating a significant price variability. The midweek information was a little different. Prices trended up, and volume trended down. So if I'm looking at this information sitting in a purchase manager's chair or a mill sales manager's chair, I'm seeing that what it looks like was there was excess inventory on 2x612 number 1 at the beginning of the week. Volume was trending up as prices were dropping $18 and people were snapping up that inventory. Now, after some of that inventory was sold off, by midweek, prices were trending up and volume was trending down, which indicates to me that the inventory was gone, the new production was coming online, and prices were being tested in the positive direction since they've accomplished their goal of getting rid of the excess inventory. Now, that's my view. That's how I'm using the information based on my experience in the industry. But again, this information is specific to anybody that's viewing it. That's the beauty of it. We give you the information. We give you all of the different indicators to slice it up and really drill down on what's happening, and you use that information how you see fit to make your decisions and make it as clear as possible. So moving on to the next slide. Next, I'd like to get into quarterly benchmarks, which is the next step in the information that we receive. We take the weekly transaction data that we were given and we put it into a weekly price report, which we just touched on. But also we take that information in our database and we break it into quarterly benchmarks. Now, this is very popular among our mill customers because it gives you an opportunity to look at what your mill is doing in comparison to the marketplace. For instance, if you look at this next page, this gives you what I like to say is a 30,000 foot view of what's happening. It tells you each individual dimension, 2x4s through 2x12s, for whether you have one mill or you have 10 mills. It will be all lumped in together and give you an idea of what the grades that are being cut by each individual dimension versus the east average and also versus the west average, depending on where your mills are located. If you look at it, for instance, to break it down, you can see that this particular mill cut 27% of their 2x4s as number 1, 49% as number 2, 19% as number 3, and 6% as number 4. The east average was 18% number 1, 37% number 2, 20% number 3, and 25% number 4. So you can see where this mill compared. It cut a lot more number 1 grades and a lot less number 4 grades, but it also cut a lot more number 2s and a lot less a lot more number 2s versus the market, right on par with the number 3 grade and quite a bit less number 4. So this mill is doing a very good job of maximizing their cuts from their raw materials to get the most out of what they are, what the most money for what they're selling. You can also see the price, for instance, on the number 1 grade. Price is broken out to the left. The number 1 grade that they sold was $11 higher on average than the east average. The number 2 was $4 below the average of $255. The number 3 was $9 below the average of $220, and the number 4 was $6 above the average of $171. So that gives a very clear picture of where that mill was in comparison to the market. So that will be very helpful to whether it's a sales manager or a production manager to get an idea of what their production yield is getting them in terms of sales realization. And the one last thing I want to point out is the average length on the bottom. That gives you an idea basically of where you fall compared to the market in terms of average length of product. For instance, on the 2x4, this mill was 12.8 feet on average of everything that was cut, and the east average for the entire industry was 12.3 feet. So it was pretty close. Now the next slide we're going to review is going to drill down and give you a much clearer picture on each individual grade. Now this is just one grade I'm grabbing, which is number 2, but we'll give you a individual drill down slide for all grades, 1s through 4s. This individual mill on their number 2 dimension cut 3% 2x4s, 20% 2x6, 28% 2x8, 24% 2x10, and 26% 2x12. The industry average was 28% 2x4s, 29% 2x6, 20% 2x8, 16% 2x10, and 8% 2x12. And what you can see then is that this mill obviously cut more of the wider lengths than the average, the wider dimensions, excuse me, than the average. They specialized in 2x8s and larger, with about 20% being 2x6, but very little was 2x4. The price that they got for the individual dimensions were, on the 2x4, they were $6 under the market. On the 2x6, they were $2 under the market. On the 2x8, they were $1 over. On the 2x10s, they were $1 under, and on the 2x12s, they were $4 under. So they were pretty close to the average for the marketplace on the east side. But this gives you a very clear picture of, if you're sitting in a manager's chair, of what you're doing and how to gain your strategy for the next quarter. You can go back and look and say, hey, we were pretty close to market. We were doing a pretty good job of being on average, but maybe we want to test it up a little bit in the next quarter to see if we can get a little bit more dollars for our production. And on this next slide, this comes at the end of every weekly report as well as on our quarterly benchmarks, and it's just basically your trending curve to tell you what's happening. You can see it's following over 2010. It followed its normal course, where it rose in the spring and fell down in the hot summer months and just kind of bounced along the bottom for the rest of the year. This one in particular ended at the end of the fourth quarter for December 30th of 2010. But this will continue to be included at the end of the weeklies and the quarterlies, and it'll give you an idea of the history of what the lumber prices are doing. The next section I want to touch on is custom analytics, and is basically very simple. You tell us what you want to see on a report. We look in our database and see if we can make it work. And the key point is it must meet federal antitrust guidelines. We will not be in a position where we can disclose mills, but if you can give us a region with mill-specific characteristics that you want to compare your mill to, we'll work up a subset of mills, obviously without names, and compare your yield and your price versus that individual region of the country. And we'll charge a one-time fee to generate that report for you, and then we can run it as requested for a nominal fee after that. This is very popular with a lot of mills as well as treaters, because it gives you a clear idea of if you want to look at maybe a three-state region where you sell or buy from. It'll give you an idea of how you compare to those folks in that individual area. But again, this is custom. It'll have to meet federal antitrust guidelines, but it's something that we do for a lot of our customers. And to conclude, one thing that we like to say, it's the power of knowing. If you know the market, you make better informed decisions when, of course, allocating your resources, negotiating with customers or suppliers, and directing your sales and operations staff. When you have a clear picture of what's happening in the market, you can make better decisions, as opposed to looking at the reports that you received today and not having any idea where those prices are coming from, or not having any idea of why it's headed in that direction. For instance, maybe you're selling lumber quicker than you can make it and prices are going down in that report. Well, we feel like by participating in this, every transaction that you have plays a part. Every transaction has a voice. So, we're receiving thousands of transactions per week that are giving us an average weighted price that we're basically reporting back to the industry. So your actions are determining the prices that are being reported, not your opinion, and I think that's key. And this last slide is my contact information. Again, my name is Bill Nocerino, and I'm the manager of the lumber division at Forest2Market. These are my phone numbers, both office and cell. I can be reached at either one. I travel quite a bit, so cell phone might be better if you need to catch me if you can't get me in the office. And that's my email on the bottom, bill.nocerino@forest2market.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'm constantly on the road making visits to mills and treating plants. I would love an opportunity to come out and talk to you in person and answer any questions that you may have, or set up a conference call, whatever need be. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation today. If you have any questions or would like to hear more about it, please contact me. Thanks, and take care.